So our final presentation this afternoon is from Lyn Taggart. Lyn is a lower school grade 3 teacher here at Cobham, and she has been working on cultivating growth mindset and happiness. I will let her share her story.
Okay. Hello, I'm Lyn Taggart, and I've been teaching at ACS for 13 years now. I'm the final presentation, so after this you get to eat dinner. This whole thing has been a really big learning experience for me, so I just want to thank Latifa and Ben from the beginning of my presentation instead of at the end, because it's been just such a journey for me as well as the students. I'm a very linear thinker. I like graphs, charts, tables, and things that are very concrete. And Latifa and Ben just changed that immediately because they told me that's not how action research works. You have to be able to bend and change and do things in the way that the research takes you. So thanks to them, I have a new sort of perspective on learning and working in general. I've always been someone who likes hard work and who likes to persevere, so I feel lucky to go into this project like that. But then, having said that, someone that doesn't have a growth mindset probably wouldn't pursue this either. So that's been a fortunate thing for me. But I've been intrigued by what makes someone have more of a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. So to start off, I just want you to think about, and I'll take 3 volunteers. Sorry, I teach 3rd grade, so 3 volunteers to tell me how you feel when you have challenging or difficult work to do. So just think about it for a second. Just raise your hand if you would like to volunteer how you feel when you have challenging or difficult work to do. Someone, please raise their hand. Thank you. Yes.
Excited.
Okay. Yes.
Challenged.
Okay. Great. And I can take one more. Lucky volunteer, yeah?
Sometimes I feel pessimistic to start with and then quite excited that actually it's an opportunity to do something.
Okay, great. So just keep thinking about that as I go through this. I went to a primary school that was experimenting with whole language when I was younger. And it was in America where that first was sort of it was a new idea, and there wasn't this balance of literacy yet. And fortunately for me, it worked. So I was a reader, and I could go on and be literate and do all the other academic things. But for some, it didn't work. And unfortunately, I saw people alongside me not enjoying reading. And later in their life, maybe some have learned the pleasure of literature and are free readers now. Some still don't have that. And I think that's something that's always intrigued me, that the way that we teach, the emphasis that we put on different subjects, or the way that we learn in school, is really impacts a child's life in the long term. I went to uni in the year of 2000. I wrote a thesis about intrinsic motivation. And I came across Carol Dweck's research for the first time then, and it was mostly focused on intrinsic motivation. But in 2006, she wrote a book called Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, and it shifted the thinking of a lot of people. Jo Boaler in 2013 has continued with this, and she now runs a site called UCubed, which we use in our classrooms in the lower school. So a mindset is basically the way of thinking that influences your behavior and attitude toward yourself and others. And Carol Dweck talks about growth and fixed mindsets. So truthfully, we all have an area of our lives in which we have a fixed mindset. We think, oh, I'm not very good at this, or I just can't do this very well yet. And we have areas of our lives where we have more of a growth mindset. And believing that with effort, perseverance, and motivation, all children can, is at the heart of all of my work in this project. So current neuroscience research focuses on neuroplasticity of the brain. So it negates the idea that our brains are fixed from birth. It's the ability of the brain to change, adapt, and rewire itself throughout our entire life. So just think about that for a moment. And as an adult, that means that throughout your entire life, your brain can adapt and change. And it goes both ways. It strengthens new connections that are being used a lot, and it also weakens connections that aren't being used as much. So some people are a little bit hesitant to engage in this, and they say, well, I don't believe any of this mindset stuff. I didn't have it when I was little. I turned out just fine. But then 50 years ago, the only way to cure a toothache was to pull out the tooth. Now we have lots of other ways to do that. And that's what Carol Dweck would say. So we, in our lower school, I think it was 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I don't know, I can't remember now, we implemented a math workshop. And we were all really excited about it. We started doing a lot of work with the U-Cubed website with Joel Bowler, and she has a lot of inspirational videos where she tells kids and everyone that's watching, you know, you can have a growth mindset. You just have to think in that way, and everyone is a math person. There's no such thing as a math person. She focuses very much on math. So it was fantastic. We started the math workshop. We did that first 10 days with Joe Bowler. We had all of this exciting engagement with the kids. We thought, okay, excellent. They have growth mindsets now, and they're all motivated, and they're going to persevere because we mark them on it, and we actually use these mathematical practices where it says the kids have to persevere. So that means that that's going to happen. But it was sort of like a cliff edge, because after that, we expected that they would have this mindset, but we didn't teach them how to we didn't help them cultivate it and teach them strategies for developing that mindset. So that's where my research question came in. I wanted to know how we do this. So I started reading, well, I didn't start reading this then, I started reading other books, but this is the book that we've used for my literature review, because actually when we tried to commission a literature review, no one had enough research already on it, because it's sort of a new thing with young children. So all the research was aimed at middle school, high school, and adults. So I've read this book, Mindsets in the Classroom, and that's where most of my literature review comes from. So I wanted to know if regular growth mindset exercises and reflection, alongside a strong focus on our Esslers and dispositions at ACS in morning meetings throughout the year, would have an impact on the development of growth mindsets and happiness. So if anyone knows me, they know I love our Esslers and our dispositions. If I could wear a jumper with our Esslers on it every day, I would. Our students in the lower school have been really fortunate to every week have a morning meeting that's prepared by me and distributed to all of the teachers in the lower school, so that once a week they're focusing that whole half hour that we spend every single morning on one Essler or Essler disposition. And so it's really fun for me to hear the kids talking about being an optimist or a role model, a risk taker or a steward around school, and sharing that common language together. Our Esslers are fundamental in developing a growth mindset and positivity and leading to happiness. So initially I wanted to do this with all of third grade, and they took part and did whatever I said and happily went along with it. I had I had the idea to prepare lessons in morning meetings as well. And finally I ended up with this idea of doing activities on Seesaw, which is a digital platform for sharing work with parents, and kids can do work on this as well. So I set up reflections every week and activities that children would do, and it was delivered in the same way to all classes in the third grade. So that was how I had to change everything, as I said, from my initial idea, but it was working really well, and everyone was having this regular weekly feedback on what is growth mindset, reminding them to practice and having them reflect on how they've used that mindset and their Essler dispositions throughout the week. So here are some samples of things that they've done on Seesaw, and there are a couple more. Some are, more involved than others, and they so they engaged in these and they shared them with their parents, because that's what Seesaw is for. It's really about sharing it with their parents. So at home they were talking about it as well, and parents were becoming really interested in what is this all about and having those conversations with kids. So we also tried reflections in a notebook. Didn't really work so well. Kids were just writing sort of what we wanted to hear. I tried surveys with kids to get more information. If you've ever done a survey with a third grader, with an 8-year-old, you'll know what I'm talking about. They just sort of tell you what you want to hear. And it didn't really give me the feedback that I wanted. What I found gave me the best feedback in the end was anecdotal evidence. So I started to just put iPads out face down around the classroom to catch their conversations with one another. And this is when I was able to gather proper data. So fortunately, it was toward the end of Q1 that I discovered this and started experimenting with it. It wasn't until the end of Q2 that I realized I had to transcribe all of those conversations and spent hours and hours doing that over holiday periods. So, here are some of the results of the anecdotes, and I am going to read from the slide, and I don't have their voice recording of this, so I'll try to make it sound as much like an 8-year-old would say it as possible, because I've listened to it over and over again. So this is Q1, Q2, and Q3, and this is just a representative anecdote from one student. So I have this for about 15 students. So this one in Q1 is saying, in math, I can't do it, it's so hard, it's just too hard, I hate math, math is the worst subject. In Q2, math is so hard for me, it's always the hardest time of the day, I already tried different ways, I used blocks, I made a drawing, and still it doesn't work. I don't want to do it again, so I can't have a growth mindset. So at least they're talking about growth mindset here. It's not quite there, but they're thinking about it. In Q3, obviously I don't have Q4 because we haven't finished Q4 yet. I think this problem is a good fit for me because I don't know the answer straight away, and I've been working the whole time. It's hard, I can feel my brain growing when I keep trying. We talk so much about how making mistakes makes your brain grow. Oh no. So that's indicative of that sort of conversation. I'll give a couple more examples of that. This one, you can have a look at it. It's why do we have to write it all? I have the answer in my head already. I'm really good at math. I know how to do all the 3rd grade math, and I don't need practice. I showed this one because it's an example of a child who you would think doesn't really need this kind of talk because they're already really good at everything. Their scores are really high, but actually a lot of times these kids are the ones most in need of the growth mindset. The second quarter, I know this stuff, just make a box or something with numbers in it that counts as a model. So I said, can you explain how the model shows how to work out the answer? And he says, but the answer's right? The box just shows the numbers. I don't know, I know the answer. Math is too easy. And finally, in the third quarter, this child has said something really powerful, and I've had to capture this one. I don't really know how to model it yet. I guess I can try it. And then he asks, when doing a multiplication model, why did you draw 3 circles with 4 each instead of 4 circles with 3 each? And it's just, to me, that's just this qualitative data gives such a huge, a picture of huge growth in mindset and just approach to learning with these students. I won't go through all of these, but these are also, how do you feel when you have a challenging or difficult work to do, which is what I asked you at the beginning. So I'll just read 2 of them, one from here and one from the other one. So the first one says, well, it's not really fun. I mean, it's hard. Who would want to do hard work? I like easy work, so I get all the answers correct. My mom's proud of me. In the second quarter, challenging work is so that you can get smarter, so you can make your brain grow. Well, it doesn't actually grow, but it's something called like synapses. So you know, is that what it is? It's the stuff that shoots around in your brain, and those are making everything grow stronger. When you do that stuff, it's hard. The synapses are exercising more. So this child has really listened to all the lessons about what the neurons are doing in our brain and the synapses. And then finally, in the third quarter, I like when we do challenging work with a group. If you have an idea, everyone listens, then someone else usually says something that can make your idea even better, or maybe even fix up what's wrong with it. And you're like, a group, well, a team. So you're all together on the same team, and it's good. And finally, in the first quarter this says, I'm like, are you kidding me? No, I just get it wrong when I asked how do you feel about challenging work? And then in the second quarter, sometimes I pick the hard problem, I'm proud if I get it. And then finally, it's fun to work on challenging problems with a partner or a couple of partners. It's fun because you have to figure it out, and you can't just be like, oh, I know that, or what, I don't get it. And sometimes it's really funny, and when it's challenging, we laugh a lot at jokes about it, and it helps us to have fun. And I'm just going to close with this video of 3 students, and the last one is gold. You'll have to just hang on for that one. It's not very long at all, and I'll play it for you now.
I feel like I'm really proud that I climbed a hill, and I fell down a couple of times, but then I reached the top, and I feel nice, and it makes me feel happy, and I feel like I'm getting smarter at the second.
Sorry, there.
That I finished all the math tests, language tests, and reading tests, and I did my best. I feel I'll persevere because whenever I persevere, I just feel like I'm a champion.
I loved her for that. I couldn't resist putting that in. So it's been a really exciting journey for me, and I think most of the data that I've gotten is from my class at this point. But I've been so blessed to have the help from Latifah and Ben, and I think it's something that I definitely want to carry on with in the future and carry out to more grade levels as well in our school. So thank you.